Welcome to Wealth Hustle 247 podcast, your trusted guide to financial literacy, business innovation, and entrepreneurial success. Learn how to grow your wealth, make informed decisions, and turn your ideas into profitable ventures.
Take the first step towards financial freedom with this AI-generated overview of Beginner's Guide to ETFs and REITs for Wealth Creation. Learn how to harness the power of smart investing to grow your wealth and secure your future. Whether you're just starting out or looking to diversify, this guide simplifies ETFs and REITs, making wealth creation accessible for everyone. Your journey to success begins today. Invest in your dreams.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be diving deep into ETFs and REITs.
Oh, yeah.
Which are really fascinating and popular these days.
Yeah.
Ways to build wealth.
Mm-hmm.
You've given us a bunch of articles and research on these,
Yes.
and we're here to kind of help everyone understand them.
That's right.
And figure out how they can use them to build that long-term wealth.
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting things about both of these is that they really give people a chance to invest in things that they wouldn't have been able to back in the day.
Yeah.
Like it was only for the super rich.
Exactly.
Now anybody can get involved.
Yeah, anybody can get involved, and I think that's really exciting. But it can also be overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Because there are so many choices.
So many.
So let's start with ETFs.
Okay.
So instead of buying stock in one company,
right,
you can own a tiny piece of hundreds or even thousands of companies.
Exactly. It's like this basket of stocks or bonds. And you're getting a little piece of all of them.
And that's the power of ETFs.
Absolutely. And that's what diversification is. Yeah. And, there was a study by a really big financial institution that found that when people had a mix of assets, their investments were less risky.
Interesting.
And they had less volatility.
Okay, so their investments didn't go super high and super low.
Exactly.
They were just kind of
more stable.
Yeah.
More steady.
So instead of putting all your eggs in one basket,
you got it.
You're spreading them out.
Across all these different companies or sectors or whatever.
Right. Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But how much variety are we really talking about here?
Oh, my God.
With these ETFs?
Pretty much anything you can think of.
Wow.
There's an ETF for it.
Okay.
So like the S&P 500.
Yeah.
That's like the 500 biggest companies in the U.S. So you can basically track the whole U.S. economy.
The heart of the economy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then there's bond ETFs where you can get steady income from government bonds or corporate bonds.
I see.
And it gets even more niche than that. Like if you want to
what?
Invest in a specific sector, like tech or renewable energy, there's an ETF for that.
Wow.
So
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
So there really is an ETF for almost anything.
I would say pretty much anything.
So now it's all starting to click for me.
Good.
But I have to ask, how does this all work in practice?
Sure.
Where does my money actually go when I buy an ETF?
So it's kind of like a big pool of money from all the investors.
Right.
And then that money is used to buy all these assets, whatever the ETF is focused on.
Okay.
And then you own a slice of that pool. And as those assets go up in value, so does your investment.
Gotcha. So I'm buying a slice of that pool.
Yeah, exactly.
And as the pool grows, my slice grows.
Exactly.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So apart from diversification, what makes ETFs so appealing?
Well, they're actually really cost effective.
Okay.
Compared to some other types of investments.
Right.
The fees are usually a lot lower.
Okay.
Which means more of your money is actually working for you.
I like that.
And it's really easy to trade them.
Okay.
You can buy and sell them just like stocks.
Oh, wow.
Online through your brokerage account.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple.
So easy and affordable.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good to me.
It does sound good.
But I know there has to be some trade-offs, right?
Well, you're right.
What's the catch?
There's no such thing as a perfect investment.
Right.
And even though diversification helps lower the risk, ETFs are still affected by what's happening in the market.
Okay.
So, if the economy...
Right.
Yeah. Your ETF could also go down in value.
Okay, so you're not totally immune.
No, not totally.
To market forces.
Right.
Okay.
And sometimes an ETF doesn't perfectly match the thing that it's supposed to be tracking.
Oh, interesting.
Which is called tracking error.
Tracking error.
Yeah.
That's a new term for me.
So basically,
What does that mean?
it means that the ETF's returns might be a little bit different
Okay.
than the index
Yeah.
it's supposed to be following.
Okay.
So like, let's say you're invested in an ETF that tracks the S&P 500.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, it should perform exactly the same,
Okay.
but there might be a little bit of a difference
Okay. Why is that?
because of things like fees.
Okay.
Or maybe the EPF holds slightly different assets
I see.
than the actual index.
Interesting.
So it's not a perfect match.
So it's kind of like a shadow
Yeah,
that doesn't quite align with the object.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's close, but not perfect.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I imagine that trading fees
Yeah.
could also eat into returns if you're buying and selling all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's better to hold ETFs for the long term
All right.
and not trade them too frequently.
Okay.
Because every time you trade,
Yeah.
you usually have to pay a fee.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
So now that we've kind of explored the world of ETFs,
Mhm.
I want to shift gears
Okay.
and talk about REITs,
Right.
which are completely different,
Yeah, very different.
but also really cool.
Yes.
And they tap into real estate,
Mm-hmm.
which I think a lot of people are interested in.
For sure.
So with REITs, you're basically investing in real estate
Yes.
without having to deal with all the hassle
Exactly.
of actually owning property.
Like being a landlord, dealing with tenants,
right.
fixing things.
All that stuff.
Yeah, all the headaches.
You're letting somebody else handle that?
Exactly. You're letting the REIT handle all of that.
So REITs are basically companies that own or finance income-producing properties.
Oh, exactly.
So what are we talking about here?
So it could be things like
Yeah.
big office buildings,
Okay.
shopping malls,
Mm-hmm.
apartment complexes,
Yeah.
even things like data centers.
Oh, wow.
Those are really popular these days.
So all those trendy apartment buildings
Yeah.
that everybody wants to live in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those could be owned by REITs.
And I'm guessing there are different types of REITs.
You are correct.
Okay.
There's a few different flavors.
All right. I like that.
Yeah.
What are the flavors?
So there's equity REITs,
Okay.
and those are the ones that actually own and operate
Right.
those income-producing properties. So they're like the landlords.
Gotcha.
And then there's mortgage REITs,
Okay.
and they mainly provide financing.
Okay. So they're the banks.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
They're the ones lending the money
Gotcha.
for real estate projects.
Okay.
And then there are hybrid REITs,
Okay.
which, as you might guess, are a mix of both.
Okay. A little bit of both.
So they might own some properties
Right.
and also provide some financing
Okay.
for other projects.
Gotcha. So those are kind of like,
Yeah, they're like the all-rounders.
yeah, the well-rounded ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a pretty diverse world
Yeah.
within the world of REITs.
So I'm guessing each type has its own advantages
Definitely.
and its own things that you need to consider.
For sure.
But let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Like, what draws investors to REITs in the first place?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is the potential for income.
Okay.
REITs typically pay out a good chunk of their profits to investors as dividends.
Okay, so I can actually get regular payments.
Exactly. You get those regular checks.
That's pretty appealing.
Yeah. Especially if you're looking for passive income
Right.
or you're retired and you need some extra cash.
Yeah.
So
That's a great perk.
it's a nice book.
But I've also heard that dividends aren't always guaranteed. So how can investors kind of assess
Yeah.
the reliability of those dividends
That's a great question.
before they just jump in?
You always want to do your research
Okay.
and look at the REIT's financials.
Okay.
Check out their occupancy rates.
Okay.
How much rental income are they bringing in?
Mm-hmm.
What are their debt levels like?
Okay.
If they have a history of paying consistent dividends,
Right.
that's usually a good sign.
Okay. So track record is important.
Definitely.
Okay.
You want to see that they've been reliable in the past
Right.
before you trust them with your money.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So besides those potential income streams,
Mm-hmm.
what other advantages do REITs bring to the table?
Well, remember how we talked about diversification with ETFs?
Right.
REITs offer that too,
Okay.
but in a slightly different way
Okay.
because real estate doesn't always move in the same direction
Right.
as the stock market.
Okay.
So REITs can actually act as a buffer
Interesting.
in your portfolio.
Okay.
If the stock market is going crazy,
Mm-hmm.
your REITs might be more stable.
So it's like having a shock absorber
Yeah, exactly.
in your investments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I like that.
So it can kind of smooth out the ride.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And from what I've gathered, REITs are also fairly easy to buy and sell.
Yeah, they're traded on the stock market, just like stocks.
So I can buy them through my brokerage account.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy. And you don't need a ton of money to get started.
No, you can start with a relatively small amount.
Okay.
and get exposure to a whole bunch of different properties.
Okay. So that's a pretty low barrier to entry,
Yeah, exactly.
which is really cool. But I know that there are some considerations
Oh, yeah, of course.
that people should think about
Yeah,
before they dive into REITs head first.
it's important to understand the risks
Right.
as well as the potential rewards.
So what are some of those downsides?
Well, one thing is taxes.
Oh,
The dividends from REITs might be taxed differently
right.
than dividends from regular stocks.
I see.
So you need to factor that into your tax planning.
Okay, so that's something to talk to your accountant about.
Exactly.
Okay.
And REITs can also be sensitive to interest rates.
Okay. How so?
Well, if interest rates go up,
Yeah.
REITs might become less attractive
Okay.
to investors
And why is that?
because it can become more expensive for them to borrow money,
Right.
which can cut into their profits
Okay.
and potentially lower the dividend payments.
I see.
So,
So
rising interest rates are something to keep an eye on
definitely.
if you're invested in REITs.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, like any investment that's tied to real estate,
Yeah.
REITs can go up and down in value.
Okay.
You know, they're not immune to market fluctuations.
Right.
So if the economy takes a downturn
Right.
or property values drop,
Yeah.
your REITs could lose value too.
That makes sense.
And even though real estate is often seen as a good hedge against inflation, right?
If inflation gets really high,
Yeah.
it can still erode the purchasing power
Okay.
of those dividends.
So even with those potential downsides,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like REITs can still be a really powerful tool
Absolutely.
for diversifying your portfolio and generating that income.
Especially when
yield.
you combine them with ETFs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's where it gets really interesting.
I know.
Because they seem to complement each other
Absolutely.
really well.
Like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
They just go together.
Okay. But before we kind of jump into that,
Yeah.
I want to take a step back
Okay.
and talk about how you actually decide
Right.
how much to allocate
Yeah.
to each one.
To each one.
So, like, do you put 50% in ETFs and 50% in REITs?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you do, like, 70-30?
Exactly.
Like, what are the factors that you need to consider
Right.
when making those decisions?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to dive into next.
Okay, this is where it gets exciting.
Yeah.
Right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Building a balanced portfolio is like putting together a winning sports team.
Okay, I like that.
You know, you need players with different strengths
Yeah.
and skills
Right,
working together.
to reach that goal.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we position those players
Right.
on the field to get that win?
Let's start with ETFs.
Okay,
Those are like your versatile all-rounders.
okay.
They give you that broad market exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So you're capturing the growth potential
Yeah.
of different sectors and asset classes.
Okay.
They're really good for building a solid foundation
Mm-hmm.
for long-term growth.
So like a retirement portfolio?
Exactly, like a retirement portfolio.
So ETFs are the players that are consistently getting points,
Yes,
keeping the scoreboard ticking over.
exactly.
Okay.
Now let's bring in the REITs.
Okay.
They're your specialists.
Okay.
They're known for those consistent dividends,
Right.
that steady income stream. Think of them as the players who deliver those clutch free throws
Okay.
or penalty kicks
Yeah,
when you need them most.
I like it.
Yeah.
And those dividends can really make a difference,
Yeah, for sure.
especially for people who are looking for that passive income.
Right.
Or maybe they're retired and need some extra cash.
Exactly.
But how do we determine the right balance
Right.
between those two?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah,
It seems like risk tolerance would play a role.
definitely.
So if you're comfortable with a little bit more risk
Okay.
and you have a longer time horizon,
Yeah.
you might put more of your money into ETFs,
Okay.
maybe 70% or even 80%.
Wow.
That lets you really capture that growth potential
Mm-hmm.
of the market
Okay.
while still getting that diversification benefit from REITs.
So if I'm a more aggressive investor,
Yeah.
I've got some time,
Mm-hmm.
I can ride out those ups and downs. I
Yeah.
might want to lean more heavily on ETFs
Exactly.
for those long-term gains.
You got it.
Okay. Now on the flip side,
Okay.
if you're closer to retirement
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you're just not as comfortable with risk,
Right.
you might want to go for a more balanced approach.
Right.
Maybe a 50-50 split
Okay.
between ETFs and REITs.
And that gives me...
That gives you a nice blend
Yeah.
of growth and income,
Right.
and it helps to kind of smooth out those bumps in the road a little bit.
Okay.
So it really depends on your individual circumstances,
Yeah.
what your goals are.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that sweet spot
Mm-hmm.
where your investments align with your life.
Exactly.
Okay. But Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I'd love to get some like practical tips
Okay.
on what to look for before diving into either of these. Like,
Yeah.
are there any red flags
Yeah.
or essential factors to keep in mind?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's hear them.
First and foremost,
Yeah.
do your research.
Okay.
Don't just buy an ETF or a REIT
Yeah.
because it has a catchy name
Right.
or it's been doing really well lately.
Okay.
Look under the hood.
Yeah.
Dig into the details.
Like a car.
Exactly like a car.
Yeah.
You wouldn't buy a car
No.
just based on its color.
Right. I want to see what kind of engine it has.
Exactly. You want to know what's going on under the hood.
Yeah.
So for ETFs,
Mm-hmm.
look at the expense ratios.
Okay.
Those are the fees that you pay
Right.
to own the ETF.
Okay.
And for REITs,
Yeah.
look at the dividend yields.
Okay.
That tells you how much income
Yeah.
you can expect to get
Right.
from your investment.
And how do I find that information?
You can find it online.
Okay.
There's lots of websites that provide this data.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right.
Talk to a financial advisor.
Yeah.
They can help you figure out
Right.
what's right for you.
So it's like having a mechanic by your side
Exactly.
to guide you through the process.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
And remember, the world of investing is always changing. Right. So stay informed.
Yeah.
Keep learning.
Hey, up to date.
Exactly.
Right.
Read articles.
Yeah.
Listen to podcasts.
Listen to the deep dive.
Yes, listen to the deep dive.
Okay, so it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
No, definitely not.
You got to stay engaged.
Yeah.
Be proactive.
Be an
people.
active participant
Yeah, I like that.
in your own financial future.
Okay, so I think we've given our listeners
I think so.
a really solid understanding
Yeah.
of the key considerations
Mhm.
and potential benefits
For sure.
of using ETFs and REITs.
I think we've done a good job
Yeah, I think so too.
of explaining it.
But before we completely wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought.
Okay, I like it.
We've talked about these in kind of broad strokes,
Yeah.
but within those categories,
Mhm.
there's a whole universe of options.
It's like saying we've explored the continents,
Yeah.
but now it's time to go deeper
Yes.
into the specific countries and cities.
I like that. So there are ETFs that focus on specific sectors,
Very good.
like technology or healthcare or renewable energy.
And each one has its own risks and rewards. And its own growth potential.
Okay.
And with REITs,
Yeah.
the type of properties they own can make a big difference.
Right.
Like a REIT that invests in industrial real estate
Mm-hmm.
might perform very differently
Yeah.
than one that invests in hotels
Right.
or shopping malls.
So it's about understanding the nuances of each specific.
Each one is unique.
Yeah.
And you got to do your research.
So this opens up a whole new dimension
It does.
to our exploration.
It's like a whole new layer.
Yeah, of the onion.
It encourages listeners to dig deeper
Yes.
and find those niche areas
Mm-hmm.
that fit their goals.
That resonate with them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's the beauty of investing.
it is.
There's always more to learn,
Always something new.
more to discover.
More to potentially gain.
I love that.
So we've given everyone a solid foundation
Mm-hmm.
and that spark of curiosity
Yeah.
to keep exploring.
Keep that fire burning.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note,
Okay.
we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Me too.
Keep those questions coming.
Yes, please.
And happy investing.
Happy investing.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into ETFs and REITs.
It's been a whirlwind tour
It really has.
of the world of investing.
But it's amazing how much our listeners have grasped these concepts.
I know they're a smart bunch.
They really are.
They've given us a lot to work with.
Yeah, they have.
And I think we've extracted some real nuggets of wisdom
Absolutely.
from all this material.
Yeah, we've distilled it down to
Yeah.
the essentials.
So the good stuff.
But I think the most important takeaway
Okay.
is that knowledge is power
Absolutely.
when it comes to your finances.
Knowledge is key.
Yeah, because ETFs and REITs,
Mm-hmm.
they offer these fantastic opportunities
Yeah, for sure.
to build wealth,
Right.
but it's not just about
No,
throwing your money at them
definitely not.
and hoping for the best.
You got to understand how they work.
You got to be informed.
Yes.
You got to assess your own risk tolerance
Right.
and make those smart decisions.
And have a plan.
Yeah, that align with your goals.
Exactly.
It's like,
It's
oh.
like being given a map and a compass.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
You have the tools to navigate,
You do.
but you have to chart your own course,
You're the captain of your own ship.
and the journey doesn't end here.
No. It's just the beginning.
The world of investing is always changing.
Constantly evolving.
So you got to stay curious.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep learning.
Keep exploring.
Keep asking those questions.
Yes. Never stop learning.
I think we've given our listeners
I think so too.
a really solid foundation.
A good starting point.
Yeah, and that spark of inspiration to keep going.
To keep digging deeper.
Into the world of ETFs and REITs.
Absolutely.
But remember,
Right.
investing is a marathon,
Yes.
not a sprint.
Patience is key.
Yeah?
And discipline.
So take your time.
Don't rush into anything.
Make informed decisions.
And enjoy the ride.
And on that note,
Okay.
we'll wrap up this deep dive
Kind of good.
into ETFs and REITs.
It's been a pleasure
It really has.
exploring this with you.
We hope you enjoyed it
Me too.
as much as we did.
I hope so.
Keep those questions coming.
Yes. Keep learning.
And happy investing.
Happy investing, everyone.
That's it for today's episode of Wealth Hustle 247. Be sure to follow, like, comment, and share with others. Keep pushing toward your goals, and we'll see you in the next episode.